letting me babble at you. My topic today is going to be talking about accessibility and digital strategy. I think that making the inclusive approach a priority and start talking about it sooner in the life cycle of a project is going to make all of our lives easier, regardless of what role you play in that process. So first of all, who am I? My name is Donna Bungard. I'm a digital strategist over at MediaCurrent. And all this babble basically says that I've come from a background of design and some front-end development as well as strategy. And it kind of has given me a unique perspective on the overall process a website takes in its development cycle. Also, if you also read my last blog post, that was kind of me as a kid. You see, I haven't been dealing or using accessibility mindsets in my professional career. Growing up, that was pretty much me. I was the only one in my household without some sort of physical disability, from vision to hearing to mobility. My household ran the gamut. So you're going to hear me use the phrase a lot, just what I do. It's because it is just what I do. I don't think about certain things. When talking to my sister, who has a hard of hearing, she lost it when we were kids. I don't think about, am I speaking into her hearing aid speaker, or am I making it so she can read my lips? No, I'm thinking about, I don't want to find myself yelling about the shrimp at my grandparents' house or great uncle's house or something, and be the only one in the room yelling. It's just what you do to adapt, to be able to communicate to the people around you. And that is basically my thought process and my approach to all accessibility on the web, is that it's not this big, hard thing to talk about. Somebody recently told me at a Google meetup, oh, it's so hard to broach. No, it isn't. People who are living with these types of challenges, they're not thinking about, this is my challenge. They're thinking about, okay, how am I going to get this done? And that's the same approach we need to take. And that's how we need to talk to clients about it. It's just what we do. It's just what you want to do if you want to actually communicate with people. But fast forward a whole bunch of years, I am a digital strategist here at MediaCurrent. So what does MediaCurrent do? Well, we build really cool websites. It says highly impactful. There's all sorts of wonderful terminology. But at the end of the day, we build really intricate websites that produce fantastic results for a whole lot of clients out there. And you guys can check out the website if you want to learn more about that later. A quick rundown of what we're going to talk about today. What is web accessibility and who's affected? What are some guidelines or regulations? And what even qualifies as a disability? How does this impact our work? The strategy aspect of it, some inclusive design thoughts. Trying to make it a little more real to people who may not be as familiar with that. And some examples in action, and then tools. Statistics, information, things like that. So that way, I'm not just talking at you, I want to empower you to make a difference, or empower people on your team who maybe you're already making the difference, but there's more that they can do, but they don't know how because they're not, a lot of us think, oh, it's accessibility, it's all front end. Well, it doesn't have to be. We need to talk about it the whole time. And at the end, we'll come back to empowerment. So in order to come back there, that's where we got to start. So as I'm sure everybody in this group already knows, that web accessibility, I didn't know that was working. I apologize. Web accessibility in our community as a whole is about empowerment. It comes down to empowering the end user. And in doing so, we empower our
Donna, you got muted.
Somebody muted me?
There you go.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry.
Apologize, people. So essentially, web accessibility comes down to empowerment. Not sure where I got muted, so let me just briefly say this, and then I'll move on. But essentially, We empower the end users. In doing so, we empower our clients to reach more of their market. And because of that, they empower us to research better ways of handling what we build and approaching this. So who's affected? A lot of people out there wonder, okay, but is there enough people who are going to benefit from, who are getting an added cost to a project, making sure that everything works the way it needs to? Well, according to the CDC a few years back, 53 million adults, and that's only the adults, were identified as having some sort of disability. Now that, quick Google search later, the amount of the basic population of New York and California combined. So if you have a client coming to you saying something along the lines of, that's just too expensive right now, can you imagine them saying, we want to target everyone except New York and California because those markets are just too expensive? It's easy to forget what those numbers mean. So, being a strategist, of course, I like little charts and data and all this happy stuff. 14% of females, nearly 50%, have some sort of mobility issue. 5% have the vision. Now, the hearing was not reported in this particular statistic, but obviously that's relevant as well. You know, as we age, our mobility issues go up. Apparently, our vision issues kick in about 45. That's not really a surprise. And then, cognitive issues, I apologize. And then the vision, of course, increase at that age as well. And then here's the statistics that kind of hit me. Why? Because accessibility issues, disabilities, all of these impact the end result in terms of what the household income can be. We're not talking about making it so that someone can't surf for a better kitten video. We're talking about people who face challenges may have a harder time getting out and doing X, Y, or Z, or they might find their access to certain things is more limited. The internet gives us the ability to empower them, to give them what they need to further themselves and better their quality of life. And here we are seeing in straight numbers that as the challenges increase, their income decreases. But hey, we all want to be good people, our clients want to be good people, but sometimes just knowing those numbers, knowing the compassion behind it, isn't enough to justify the budget. But don't worry, there are other numbers out there. For example, since the start of 2015, more than 240 businesses nationwide have been sued. It's happening. There are companies out there actually looking specifically for sites, even without a client, but specifically for sites that are not accessible. This is happening more and more. It's not a matter of can you afford it now, it's can they afford not to. And then, of course, as many of you in this group already know, by March of 2018, government and educational institutions will be held to 508 compliance. For those of you who may not be as familiar with the US 508 compliance, it equates pretty close to AA compliance. And I love this quote. I don't care about political affiliations or whatever, but I love this quote. Americans with disabilities are Americans first and foremost, and like all Americans, are entitled not only to full participation in our society, but also full opportunity in our society. Think back to that income slide for a minute. Do we feel that this really represents full opportunity the way it's currently going? So, for those of us who don't have these particular challenges, let's try to make it a little more real. Let's make it something that we can relate to a little bit better. Here's some different types of color blindness. Now that's a media current team from a little while ago. And you can see that, their very perspective changes. And in truth, looking at this slide, I'm half wondering if that contrast between the gray and the white is enough for that font size. So forgive me if I'm breaking my own rules here. Now, I'm not really sure if you guys are going to be able to hear my YouTube video. I'm going to try it. If someone wants to pop on and let me know if they can hear it or not, that would probably be helpful.
Go ahead, Donna.
Okay, can you guys hear that? And then I'll do the intro.
Yes, we can hear it. I can at least.
Oh, all right. Well, then let me just do the intro to this. This is Brian Charlson. He spoke at Ned Camp last year, and he did a little demonstration for us about how the screen reader was being used. Now, to be honest with you, the most powerful part of his keynote presentation wasn't recorded. It was that someone forgot to set him up on the Wi-Fi. And here he was, he didn't slow down the screen reader like he did during this presentation for us. He just went through and connected himself to the Wi-Fi like any of us would do if we were getting ready to present. And it was dizzying, and I don't mean that, with beautiful words here. I mean, I was literally getting dizzy, listening and watching him work. These screen readers go at a pace that those of us who aren't accustomed to them would have a very difficult time. He slowed this down for us. He even said that. So I'm going to play, it's only a couple minute video, his experience of going through a site with a screen reader and what the code or the things that we're kind of accustomed to mean in terms of his existence and of his experience. Given that we were a little late to start, I might chop it a minute or so early, but I want you guys to get a feel for this.
And in fact, every page on the entire website has a unique name. So I can't mistakenly think I'm where I'm on. Go on the page is to drop down by heading. I would hit HG. And what was that? Heading level 1. Level 1's on to be on page. There's 1 to enter your function. And there's heading level 2, right where it should be. And every one of them is unique. They are the same words. And it confused me as I navigate through this. Now I'm back to heading level 3 and back up. News and information, so this 3 should be a subset of that 2. Is it? Yes. It is. It's good structure. Good structure. And back up to the top of my screen. The next thing I want to know about is product deals with graphics. We're hitting G, which is my quick key for moving between graphics. And it told me another thing that that's a clickable graphic. And everything that it's telling me is complete, enough for me to make a decision.
So we'll revisit that, and I can even post the link to this directly into the chat after the fact. But for those of us who maybe aren't as familiar with screen readers or don't see somebody who frankly relies on them and can move through these as naturally as some of us type, it's important to see it. It's important, or not so bad. It's important for us to experience it. It's important for us to understand what we don't have to do each time. So, what even qualifies as a disability? And are people who are, identifying themselves as disabled the only ones to benefit? And the short version is, well, if your everyday life is impacted by functional limitations, whether it be hearing, vision, cognitive, or mobility, then that can be disabled. Okay. And as for who benefits, well, there's a lot of people who benefits. There's those who identify, but don't forget about temporary. You break your hand. You maybe have migraines. I've known people with migraines who say it impacts them on a cognitive level. There are any number of things in our lives that can temporarily change the way we perceive and the way we interact online. These people, each of us, can benefit at some point or another from a site being accessible. So here you hear me talking about accessibility in general. And again, a lot of people on this channel are already going to know most of this. But what does it mean specifically, this strategy? How can we talk about it sooner other than, listen to me battle? Well, the idea of strategy is learning, getting all the information we can to reach our audience and reach it better. And people who utilize these accessibility considerations are part of our audience. So let's go back and let's start with discovery. Let's start talking about it right away. With our audience research, is that persona more likely to have a disability? What kind of information can we look at? Can we look at CDC? Can we look at, I think it was the University of Minnesota had a great searchable database there of statistics to let our clients see the fact that there is a good piece of their audience that is likely going to benefit. KPI definition. For obviously right now, for government or educational institutions, it's definitely a key performance indicator because of the compliance issues coming through next year. But what about other companies? Is there enough information and data to support this argument? And then, of course, there's SEO audits and strategy. We all know that, being being SEO friendly does not necessarily mean you're accessible, but man, being accessible is certainly SEO friendly. Now, when I originally started talking about this conversation with a few people, they asked, well, how many people out there are using JAWS? How many people out there are using the color contrast enhancement tools? And so on and so forth. And the fact is, we don't know. There's too much chance not only for false positives, but for privacy concerns. There's too much out there. These tools don't track the way a website browser tracks. So there's nothing out there. We can't give your client a number saying, well, 17% use JAWS and this many people use that. We need to reach out and include everyone because we can't tell you specifics. Saying you can do more to understand how your audience is interacting with the site. User testing has been around for quite a while, and there's a reason for it. We need to see how people who aren't staring at the same site and staging for, weeks on end, we need to see how they interact. How is that navigation working? How is this working? Well, the same goes with accessibility. Loop 11, they include a 508 compliance check. Citeron does every page of the site, not just sample pages like a lot of other places I looked at had done. And the Perkins School for the Blind I thought was fantastic because not only is this a school that's teaching people how to live in this world, they're actually going out there and trying to improve the experience. So let's do some strategy talking points because sometimes people in the strategy departments might not be as familiar with this. Or maybe they're just, talking quickly and they don't have time to hit on every detail. So here are a few points. Visual considerations, being descriptive alt text, video transcripts. The transcripts help a lot with hearing considerations. Let me tell you, as someone who's been in a room with her sister who has been watching a video, please have the transcripts. Please, please, please. Because I swear everyone in a 4-block radius heard that same video. And, I'm sure there's a way she could have, actually she now has hearing aids she could Bluetooth directly to, so that's a little out of date. But prior to, Well, everyone knew when Diane was listening to something interesting. Cognitive considerations. If someone has early onset Alzheimer's, the early stage onset of Alzheimer's, yeah, you know what I mean. Having an autoplay video, particularly if it's loud, can instantly disorient them on the site. Not only is that unpleasant for them, but it's certainly not going to allow them to take advantage of what you have to offer. It's just a simple consideration. Don't autoplay. Keep your volume lower. For mobile considerations, keep spacing. Keep your spacing between your links and make your CTAs large and easy to click. Though I did read an interesting thing just yesterday about, but don't make them too large, because if someone's having a hard time scrolling on a tablet or something, they might hit it up by mistake. Somebody with a mobility consideration was stating that, thank you for making it large, but let's not go overboard. And I thought that was a fantastic thing that I personally had never considered. So, again, I'm talking a lot about it, but let's talk about practical application, because at the end of it, we've got to show our clients information. Now here's a sample of a media current persona. In truth, this is just a sample. I've seen one come out recently that also included a lot of this, and it was more specific to an age mobility concern for some of their target market. So this is actually happening. My point is, this is a sample, but we're actually starting to do this. And we're just building it in. We're not making a big deal. It's not and the disability consideration is. It's, hey, wants and needs. He already uses tools to enhance the contrast. Let's make it so he doesn't need to. Sometimes a client wants various user lenses. And impaired, meaning maybe they're not fully disabled, but maybe that's people who are disabled and someone who broke their arm or is having some other temporary issue. You know, desired online experience. If you look at it, it's not really all that different than what it needs to be anyway. We're just adding in the accessibility considerations right from the beginning, right from this first stage of presenting our clients with deliverables. We're starting to build these in. It doesn't have to be hard or crazy. Growth strategy. You know, with a strong focus on inclusive design. Just put that in there. Inclusive design includes everybody, including these accessibility issues, and we're just making it a natural part of the conversation. Think about it for a minute. A few years back, no one had smartphones, maybe more than a few, but no one has smartphones. They didn't exist yet. But as they became more popular, we already had to adapt to make our sites more accessible to people with devices. They just happen to be phones or tablets. Now, this is just the next evolution. We're already doing it. We just need to just do it better. So yeah, these are simple changes. From the strategy point of view, it doesn't have to be hard. It's a little more data, but we're already pouring over data. It's just a little bit more. It doesn't have to be hard to talk about. This isn't something new or crazy. People have been finding alternative ways to get through lives to overcome whatever challenges each of us face, as long as we've been alive. This is just the next natural evolution online, and we need to present it as such and not as an afterthought at the end. So, all right, you're on board. Well, actually, everyone in this group probably is, but still, in general, you're on board, your team's on board, everybody's ready to go. Let's give everybody some tools to be able to see things. Maybe you don't have time or even the budget to perform a full audit, but maybe to start the conversation of why this is important, or if there's even a need to start this conversation, you need to give people a couple of tools to look at. Get a quick feel for the site. Show them what the WAVE tool is. Use some of voiceover commands or the color blindness simulators. This isn't a full audit. This isn't presenting them with the whole thing that's going to take hours and a budget and all of these things. This is just a few minutes. And make it clear you're only catching 20 to 30% of the issues in this, even if you were to do all of this, that it's real. Make them see it. Statistics. If you want to be able to make this argument that building it into persona is a good idea. If you want to include it in your overall audits, here are some great places to find statistics. Oh, I'm sorry, it was one now. Let me get this, see what it looks like. Nobody wants to be the bad guy saying someone's going to sue you if you don't do this, but unfortunately someone could. Showing them the examples of why this is happening, what trend is happening, who it's affecting. It could make somebody who's on the fence, or maybe not even considering it at all, considering making a point of budgeting for these considerations, well, it might make them reconsider. Then of course, code libraries. Now for people like myself who don't work on the code side of life anymore, for me to walk up to, person A saying, well, we need to do this, I was at that Drupal meetup. Same one where the person said this is hard to talk to. And I had one of our developer buddies in the back just sit there and he's kind of holding his head. And then I showed him the alley style guide. And literally, oh my God, I've been doing it wrong. This is awesome. He understood. He wanted to make this a priority. He understood the importance, but it just seemed like so much more overhead when he was already taxed by someone in my position handing the team members the tools to make their lives easier. It's going to make the process easier overall. So now what? Well, as I said at the beginning, it comes back to empowerment. It's about more than just, well, my babble there. This wheel for everybody, making the experience the best possible experience for each individual who comes to our sites. Because if we empower them, they're empowering the clients who are empowering us, and we can empower each other as a community to keep this momentum going, to keep this evolutionary process moving ahead. It comes back to being this powerful Drupal community that I'm really excited to be a part of. And I see people really helping each other grow. And this is just another growth. This is just another evolution. And it doesn't have to be anything more than, well, just something we do. It's just what you do to communicate. We're all communicators. We're all communicators when we work in this field. It's just communication. So, because I can't resist a shameless pop culture reference, it comes down to being excellent to each other. Because really, that's what empowerment is.